It's time to get sexy on Secular Sexuality.
I always love our intro, don't you guys?
Oh, baby. You know, after admitting to everybody that this is the only chance I'm ever allowed to dance, I take those 30 seconds where I can get them.
I mean, I dance the same way I walk, just terribly and with no rhythm.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah. So, hello and welcome to Secular Sexuality. I am Megan Bonner. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Christy Powell.
Howdy.
And with us this week, of course, is Serafina Smith. Hello.
Hello.
And today we are going to be talking about the holidays and how to survive them. Because as anyone in the community knows, they're really fun.
Yeah, and we could be talking about the queer community. We could be talking about the atheist community. We could be talking about
Any minority community, really.
Any minority community, anybody who has a family, anybody who doesn't have a family, anybody who used to. It's tough out there, y'all.
Honestly, I almost expected you to start with, we're talking about the holidays.
Yes, no, I can. The holidays. That wonderful time every year when we all just want to both hug our family, kill them, and then just commit financial suicide.
Hug them right to death.
But before we get started with today's episode, a few announcements. Of course, shouting out the newsletter again. Yay. The ACA puts on a newsletter that I believe we have all three written for at this point.
Yeah, as well as a special holiday episode upcoming. So keep an eye out for that.
Airing on Thanksgiving. So if you need a break from the family, you could watch us, or, honestly, you could just go into the bathroom and pull up Pornhub, whichever one works for you.
No judgment. No judgment.
Much the same thing.
Not at all.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm putting that on my CV now.
Basically the same as Pornhub.
Ooh. Can we get that as a tagline?
Yes, please.
Hey, Mark, write that down. So on, let's see here, the 24th, on November 24th, the Saturday following Thanksgiving, we are going to have Hemant Mehta guest as a speaker for our speaker series, which should be awesome. That is going to be at 11 a.m., and there's the info on your screen. 11 a.m. at a place called Duo Works. See screen for details, and social media also has the address and everything.
Cool. Sounds like a good time.
Yes, it should be awesome. Hemant, I don't know if you've heard of Hemant Mehta, but he runs the Friendly Atheist blog, and he also runs or writes for Patheos, which is pretty awesome. In addition, we need volunteers. We really need some social media volunteers. So if you are out there and think you may have just a few spare minutes
and that's something folks can do remotely. We don't need Austin folks for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can be anywhere in the world. If you have an internet connection, you can
You're able to stream this right now.
Yes.
We're talking to you.
Yeah.
No, you, right there. Behind the chair.
No, to the left. No, the other left.
That one.
Yeah. And of course, local volunteers as always, but right now we really need some social media volunteers. And lastly, I'm checking my list to make sure I don't forget anything. The ACA is hosting a Friendsgiving. So if you do not have family nearby, if you are local and you don't have family nearby, or you want to avoid them at all costs, then please come by the ACA. There will be someone here all day, but we'll be having Thanksgiving dinner, and it will be on the ACA. That's
just tell your family you're volunteering with a not-for-profit
to feed hungry people.
Right, and then come and hang out with us.
I'll be
All
hungry.
technically true.
Yeah, I'll be hungry and I'll be here. So that, I think, is all of my announcements. Of course, if you like the show, please like and subscribe. Share us out on social media. Give us a review. Whatever floats your boat. If you have a bad review to give us, maybe just put that in the comments and don't think about putting the stars on there.
But we will take it. I've said it before. It's my favorite part of every Monday morning is going back and looking at the comments and just hearing the good stuff, the bad stuff too. Though I mean, that's actually more helpful so long as it's properly spelled, not full of hate speech, includes basic punctuation.
Proper
though it's more fun without it. So
So that, I think, is all I have for that stuff. Hello.
Hello.
So, Thanksgiving. How do you two feel about Thanksgiving?
Yeah, Thanksgiving is...
Or the holidays in general.
Right, yeah. Thanksgiving has always had a weird relationship with me just because, I'm like a lot of folks, I'm a kid of divorce, so there's a lot of travel, a lot of, this person gets him this year, and we're over here, and this and that and the other. And so when I got to college, and I went to Texas A&M University, and we got to play TU every year, so it was on Thanksgiving, and that was like my good excuse to not see family, because I was always at the game. And then they went ahead and canceled that game and rescheduled Aggie football back to Saturdays. So now I'm like without an excuse.
Betrayal.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
if you really wanted an excuse, I'm sure you could come up with something.
Yeah, like an amazing volunteer opportunity right here in Austin.
Right, on Thanksgiving. There are hungry people, and they will want some turkey and ham, damn it. Would you like some turkey and ham on Thanksgiving, Sarah?
No, I'm taken care of.
Oh, okay. Also, just real quick before we get to Thanksgiving for you or the holidays, our lines are open, so we'll be taking callers in about half hour, 45 minutes, and it'd be great if we had some callers on the line. It does not have to be about the holidays, but you are more than welcome to call and ask for the advice from us for the holidays.
And Flying Spaghetti Monster knows there's plenty to talk about as we're, here as a bunch of skeptics staring down the barrel of Christmas and a number of other religious holidays that, come with a lot of baggage.
Well, even Thanksgiving does. Think of what kids are taught in school about, like what I was taught in school Thanksgiving was about.
About how those nice savages helped us out before we gave them democracy. That's what you're referring to, right? I went to a public school. That's public Texas school, so.
Yep, that's pretty much what I remember. And I didn't go to a Texas public school. I went to an Ohio public school.
Oof.
I went to a Texas public school in the 80s, so that was even more. Yeah.
I don't know. Mine was 90s. Anyway, so now that we have completely scared away any person who wanted
like
to call,
half our audience.
Sarah, what do the holidays mean for you?
Well, I love turkey, and I like eating, so that part is great. When I was a kid, it always meant being dragged out to my relative's house to sit around with a book because I didn't fit within any of them. So it was never like a special part of year except for the presents I got at Christmas. And so since then, since moving out and becoming an adult and such, I've tried to make it sort of my own thing. We'll sometimes hold Thanksgiving in our place, or I'll go to a partner's family. And, it's become more of a nice thing, if when you're able to choose,
right,
is the big deal, I think, the big change there. Able to decide, who you spend it with and what your traditions are. Yeah,
I'd have to say for myself, I have chosen a local family here at the ACA, which is awesome, and way more civil, shall we say, than my birth family.
I love watching you hold your tongue. It's just the face you get is great.
I'm sure my mom is out there watching. Mom, I love you. I didn't mean you. I just meant everybody else in our fucking family. And you know that. And wait for her to join the chat and be like, yep. But yeah, some stories to come when we have our little game.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. The holidays in general, for me, changed a lot when I was about 11 or 12, because that's when my grandpa got cancer. Mm-hmm. And so, before that, there were the big family gatherings. Granted, some of the stuff that was talked about was, but it was what you see in the movies, kind of, at least for a kid.
Yeah. Felt very conventional, very wholesome.
Yeah, and there was a rhythm to everything, and there was, we would put the stuff, put the tree up after Thanksgiving, and the presents would go under there, and, my sister and I knew where she hid the presents, and so it's not like we ever went and looked and shook some boxes. But after that, and the more religious side of the family was always a bit more tense. Because even as a kid, let's bow our heads and pray. And I'd be like, anybody else not doing it? So, yeah, choice. Choice, like you said, being able to choose who you spend it with and who you let at your table. I put it that way.
Makes all the difference.
Well, and then even if you have a great relationship with your family, who you love, oftentimes this is one of those parts of the year where that discrepancy in your values really comes up. There's just an election, then you bring in the religious component, and all of a sudden it becomes a pretty divisive place to be, or at least it can be. Has that been y'all's experience?
Yeah, I think no matter what, to an extent, you kind of have a certain affection for your family, no matter how dysfunctional it is.
Sure.
But it's still really dysfunctional. And nothing brings out the dysfunction like the holidays.
My family and birth are all dead now, so I don't have to worry about that. But but before that, I remember. No, it's like, every year you see someone, I don't know, posting on Facebook or just, come talking in the office about, oh gosh, I have to sit and deal with my bigoted relatives again. And just, then regaling you of the tales afterwards of the things that they said and how awkward it was and how they had to hold their tongue or didn't, which makes for even more exciting stories.
For sure. So how often, there's the whole phrase or the whole saying of the two things you don't talk about, at gatherings.
Sure.
Politics and religion.
And the Great Pumpkin, yeah.
But they always come up. The Great Pumpkin goes on the TV and, Uncle Roger's talking about, racist bullshit. And then politics, and of course, lastly, religion, because everybody already knows that everyone is the same religion. Come on. But did politics and religion ever creep into your family conversations?
Yeah, we largely started from there. My family was splintered, and so it's very hard to quantify what my specific family is, because from year to year it might be a totally different group of folks. But honestly, no matter where I was, it was always, church first. I would oftentimes with my mom go to Christmas Eve service, fly halfway across the country, go to like a midnight Christmas mass, and then wake up at like 6 a.m. because my crazy stepmom felt like that was the only time that you could open presents. And so I'm just like a surly teenager sitting on the couch, not wanting to be there or awake, knowing none of the presents are for me. But yeah, it almost always started from a very religious place and a very solemn one at that. You know, it's not necessarily big fiesta type Christmas.
Yeah, especially depending on the denomination that you are raised in. It really, I mean, okay, if you believe that there's a savior and this is the day he was born, you'd think it would be, like you said, like a fiesta. It would be like a big deal. But no, it's very somber.
Silent Lord. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty song.
It is a very pretty song, but the holiday in general, apart from all of the Christmas carols that were written by Jewish songwriters like in the 50s.
Yeah, growing up, I always associated Christmas songs with this one Christmas CD that we played over and over and over for years. And it wasn't until I was maybe like 15 that I was like, hold on, wait a second. Neil Diamond's Jewish. Why has he been the soundtrack to our Christmas for a
Years,
decade?
yeah.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the 50s were, and like to some extent the early 60s were like the era for Christmas songs, and we just haven't made other Christmas songs
Just sticking
afterward.
with that.
Wait, no. There is
there's
the
been like 3.
Chipmunk. There is the Alvin and the Chipmunks. All I want's a hula.
Oh,
Sorry.
man.
This grandma got run over by a reindeer. There's a
Well, there's that
couple.
one too, yeah.
There's a couple, but the
Mariah
50s are like
Carey.
the ones
I mean,
everyone still listens
The
to.
golden age.
Those
Yeah.
are the things that stress me out. Like any kind of repeated song or something. I mean, I maintain I would have had a completely different career if working in restaurants I didn't have to listen to top 40s radio.
Yeah.
Because just hearing the same songs over and over and over stresses me out. And Christmas is the worst about that. And I know that that is such a petty and asinine thing to be getting upset about when we're talking about religion and sexuality and gender acceptance and all these different things. But yeah, man, fuck carols.
Yeah, my best
Sorry.
friend works
Yeah.
as a server in a restaurant, and just whenever the holiday music starts, it's just like the same 12 songs
Over
all
and
day
over and over.
for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, it's you don't have a disc changer on that because maybe you want to get on that. Same 5 songs over and over. Anyway, so speaking of the holidays and all the fun stuff that comes with it, how do you guys feel about going through some survival guide tips?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And while you're getting that fired up, I think it's important to look at, too, not just what happens with you and your family and your traditions, but just in society writ large. I mean, the discomfort of walking by a, department store with a Salvation Army Santa and sort of that social pressure and that expectation that this is something we can all come together on. This is something we can all agree on, except that those of us here really don't agree with that and don't want
With
that
the philosophy of the Salvation
Army, of Christmas as a universal expectation of any of that.
Right. And I think it's important here to also distinguish the idea of Christmas, the religious occasion, versus Christmas, the international holiday, because it really has become its own completely separate thing, no matter how often we are told otherwise. I stand by Starbucks and their war on
Remembering the
Christmas.
reason for the season and the war on Christmas and all these talking points. I think that brings up an interesting question. I don't want to be, hiding over at Walden to try and avoid contributing to the evils of religion or whatever. But I also don't necessarily know that I want to participate or buy in to these sorts of things. Am I off base on that? Is there anything morally wrong about being a skeptic who is jamming the 24/7 Christmas station on your way to work?
Well, you just made a Thoreau reference on a holiday show, so I think that in that you are wrong. But
Okay, my bad.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with, liking.
Tacitly endorsing a secular Christmas?
Yeah, because at this point, really, let's be honest, you can have a secular Christmas and it can be secular as fuck. It does not have to have any religious connotation whatsoever, minus maybe whatever Christmas music you want to listen to. And even then, there's plenty of Christmas music out there that has nothing to do with baby Jesus.
So the Christians can steal it from the pagans, and then we can kind of rip off the Christians?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
good for it.
Make it your own. Have fun. Give presents or don't, and enjoy whatever you call family. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So, in these wonderful family times, it is important to remember you don't want to burn the turkey and the house down. You can burn one or the other, but probably not both. Or you could do both, one first, then the other one follows. But, anyway.
I'm already unsure about this guide that that you're creating here.
But generally speaking, let's remember to try and keep some sense of sanity during the holidays. It can be difficult, and we know that. Take a breath. Remember why you're there. So, theoretically, ideally, you're there to spend time with people who you have some amount of connection or affection for, that you don't get to see all the time, or maybe you do and you're sick and tired of them.
Yeah, I don't want to force the metaphor, but as you're talking about like choosing your family or choosing your holiday celebration, it does make me think about how important it is to enthusiastically consent to the situation. If you are being really pressured and strong-armed and your parents are guilt-tripping you or these different things are going on, it is going to completely be a different experience than if you are really excited to see Uncle Tommy, who's never in town, but he's coming to Christmas this year, and that opportunity.
Right. And so, help put a silver lining on that. Think of the people who, even if the vast majority of the people there, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to go deal with them. Try to remember, the few people that you are actually excited to see, and, just for lack of a better term, cherish the time that you get to spend together, and then, hopefully that'll make next year a little less stressful.
And by that same token, don't twist anybody else's arm or guilt trip anybody else into being there. Whether you're a parent or a child or both.
Yeah. And of course, stay mindful of your emotions, because they can run high.
Yes.
And when you feel yourself getting a little tense, maybe take a breather. It's okay. Hey, so I just remembered that I need to go get X from the store. Or, hey, I just need to take a call. Or, whatever. If you need to step away, step away. Don't take your family members' opinions and reactions too personally, if at all possible, because those are their opinions, and honestly, they can shove it if you disagree, just at a different time.
There's that whole thing that you grow up with, having to fit into your family. And so I guess that sort of carries over, even when you're a grown up. Just like suddenly these people's opinions are important because they just are. And there's not even like a really reason for them that Uncle Bob's opinion should be more important than Bob Malugaluga on the street. But
he's just louder and he's in your face.
Yes. But for some reason, it's just ingrained in us from childhood that these things are important to us, and it's hard not to get emotional.
Yeah. So let's see here. Also, you don't have to answer every question. We know, especially from those family members who you don't see all the time, and it's your uncle who just came into town, or even your grandma. So what are you doing now? And then that leads into so many questions.
Having so many flashbacks from college break.
Yeah. I know I had when I first started volunteering here at the ACA, I actually had an interaction with my grandmother on the phone where I gave her every opportunity not to like engage with the conversation. And she just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally like, okay, I am volunteering at an atheist community, and yeah. And that was finally, she was like,
She's probably picturing you like just slaughtering a bunch of goats and dancing naked and, you know,
baby
atheist
toes.
stuff.
Yeah, baby toes. And
Not
she was
on
just
Wednesdays.
like, oh, okay. Subjects changed. So, you know, you don't have to answer every question. Just remember that you can turn it back around on them and ask them questions. In addition, don't drink too much. When you know that you are going into what could become a dicey situation. Of course, that can affect your ability to maintain control. Yes, composure. Yes.
Basic human decency,
Yeah,
civility.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Non-violence.
Do remember that there is food galore around the holidays, so pace yourself. I never follow that. Neither do I. And I think the big stressor around the holidays, for a lot of people, especially those with kids, is money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's important for everyone to remember that how should I put this? Not everyone has the same means and pockets. And it's okay not to get every single coworker and every single, extended family member some gift from, Five Below or Dollar General because you have to get everybody something.
Yeah, I mean, like diving into the strip malls when there are giant crowds and everything, like the day before Christmas because you forgot that you had drawn, your cousin Sarah in the
pink
white elephant.
whatever.
Yeah. It can be super stressful.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll say right now, nobody's going to be squeezing any gifts out of me this year. But that's a whole nother story. But
if you would like to make $69 donations in the name of any of your relatives, the ACA would gladly accept it.
Yes.
Check out our Patreon.
And by the way, thank you to everyone who is donating in the chat. Thank you so much. It goes to a good cause. It goes to keeping the lights on. It goes to the camera and the set, and occasionally feeding the homeless, occasionally clothing and providing. No, I shouldn't say occasionally. Regularly on a regular basis. So we do things with those donations. Let's see here. Yeah, so money. I'm not going to be giving anybody any gifts this year, and I don't feel guilty about it because I'm not picking and choosing. It's just nobody's getting anything. A couple years ago, I had to make the decision because I actually had, enough money to get some nieces and nephews stuff. And it's like, where does that line end?
Right. Once you open up that can of worms, it can get tricky.
Yeah. And so I put a budget cap on each kid, got them all the same type of things, which actually, it might sound like would be a bad idea, but they loved it because they all got to have similar things that, like, the only difference. Yeah, the only difference was, like, some of them were different colors or, variety, what do you call it, like, style of whatever, like pop guns or whatever. So putting, basically putting a bounty on each kid. And
Thus the guns.
yes. And then, saying one item, no more than X number of dollars for each immediate, like, brother, sister-in-law. Mm-hmm. And then that was it. You don't have to get your coworker stuff. I mean, come on. You don't have to get anybody anything. Anyway.
Even if they get you something.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, on that gift-giving topic,
Mm-hmm.
was Santa Claus a big thing for y'all? Was that a stressful thing at all growing up? And now, as an atheist, do you equate Santa to Jesus? Is it okay to pretend to believe in Santa? Is that,
Oh, I have a story about that, but you guys go ahead.
When I was a kid, a kid on the playground told me that Santa was not real, and I was crushed. And I didn't like run to my parents. I was on the playground. But, when I got home, I ran to my parents and was like, oh my gosh, this kid told me this thing that Santa Claus isn't real. And they were like, oh, that kid was just being awful. Obviously Santa is real. And so later on, when I found out that no, Santa is not in fact
lying
real,
bastard.
I was so pissed off at them. I was just enraged. Because it wasn't just that there was this passive lie that had been happening. They had actively, when I found out, they had actively deterred me from the truth. And that angered me so much. And might have had something to do with my rejecting other imaginary friends.
Right? I mean, it's a pretty strong parallel.
Right.
I mean, you mentioned the Great Pumpkin, and man, what a beautiful metaphor for the holidays and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. My very short, with the short and concise version of this, is I was that kid on the playground.
Oh, spoiling it for everyone.
Okay, so no, it gets better. So when I was young, I was physically handicapped. And so I actually went to a preschool for mentally and physically handicapped children.
Mm-hmm.
And in the preschool, somebody said something about Santa. And me being, even at that age, being the logical, rational person, thought, well, certainly they would want to know the truth. Boy, this was my introduction to people not wanting to be confronted with the truth.
Same reaction I get when I share these videos on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made handicapped children cry.
If there is a sweet baby Jesus, he does not like that.
You got coal in your stocking that year.
No, actually, I think I got Terminator 2. Anyway, so yeah, I was that kid. I'm sorry. From the bottom of my heart to everyone out there, I'm sorry. I just did not see the point in people being deceived and thought certainly they would want to know.
No, I agree. When it came time to, talk to my own kid about Christmas, there was no way I was telling him that Santa was real.
Propagating that lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just no. There was not even a question about it. There was no debate, just no.
It just seems so tricky with the world that we live in to, I mean, it's almost like having a minority religion. By telling your kids, there's no Santa. Like, it's that same sort of, social pressure
Elf
to
on the
believe.
Shelf. The elf on the shelf. Oh my God. Have you heard of the elf on the
No,
shelf?
I've heard of it.
Oh, okay. The idea is you put the elf on the shelf and it's an active, present reminder to them that someone is always watching their behavior. So that if, the idea of Santa with his list can easily be forgotten occasionally. But if the elf on the shelf is sitting there and can see you and can see what
back.
you do.
That's creepy as fuck.
And reports back to Santa. It is. It's really creepy and it's disturbing.
And kind of another metaphor for Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always watching.
And to bring it back around to it being secular sexuality in the bedroom, too.
You have an elf watching you in your bedroom? Your kink is not my kink, but your kink is okay.
Oh, okay. Horrible memories. Horrible memories. Moving on.
Try not to do a spit take. Yeah. All right.
Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so after that, the last thing is don't let your family guilt you into letting them stay with you.
Yeah.
They can find other family members to entertain them.
Or a freaking hotel room.
Or a hotel room. Because the stress is enough at the gatherings. But if that stress is in your home constantly, it's just better not to have that, that stress. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah, no question. I mean,
Enthusiastic consent.
Yeah, right? That's really what we keep coming back to, is this idea that calendars are made up, holidays are made up, cultures are made up, religions are made up. Some of these things are made out of things, others are just ideas, but really we're all talking about different forms of kind of imaginary things that we sort of have kind of agreed to. And we don't have to opt in to any of them. It's really just about what it is you want out of the holiday, out of, your December 25th, out of your, Thanksgiving Day. It could just be a day off from work and a turkey sandwich. It could be watching a lot of football. It could be doing none of those things.
Holidays are a bizarre sort of social contract, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
They are, yeah.
There's a lot of pressure to opt in, but we do have that choice, and it's important, I think, to be reminded of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
enthusiastically consenting this holiday season.
And if you don't think that you can do Thanksgiving and Christmas, just pick one.
Yeah.
It'll be the
That's
same
fair.
family at both.
All right. Do I want less religion or more presents? It's tough.
Presents, always presents. So I hear we have a game.
Yeah, if y'all are ready to jump in.
So ready.
Are you ready?
All right.
Okay. Oh, am
I-
I
yeah.
introducing the game?
Who wants to go first, I think, is the real question.
Well, let's introduce the concept of the game first.
Sure.
So the concept of the game is 2 truths and a lie. Or sorry, 2 lies and a truth. What's the name?
which
Two,
is it?
two truths and a lie.
2 truths and a lie? Okay. Okay. I'll get it down one day. We will go, each of us, and we'll say 3 different quick little stories.
Holiday anecdotes.
Yes, holiday anecdotes. And the other 2 of us have to guess which are true and which is not. Who wants to go first?
You ready for it?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so anecdote 1. We were sitting at my grandmother's house in the living room with the tree, and my grandmother walked in and announced that she had gotten a phone call from John Wayne and proceeded to tell us about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Anecdote 2. My aunt did not show up one day at Christmas, and I only, at the time, heard a story that she was caught up in other things, and later learned that she did not want to sit at the same table with it. Anecdote 3. My partner put in the turkey and prepared all the food, and everything was going great. And then when it came time, we found that the oven had not been turned on.
2 truths and a lie?
Correct. Which
I can't help but
Is
feel
the
like the John Wayne thing is just too random to have been improvised.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sticking with that as a truth.
And I really want to hope that anecdote 2 is not true. I just want to hope that anecdote 2 is not true. So I'm going to go with that just because I'm the eternal
Just out of
optimist.
hopefulness?
Yes.
Yeah, I have to disagree. It sounds
know.
too sad to be made up.
I know.
And who's going to trust somebody to make all of the Thanksgiving sides and the turkey? Who isn't going to at least check on it every hour or so? So I'm calling that one false.
All right, so you believe anecdote 3 is the lie, and you believe anecdote 2 is the lie.
I want to believe.
I want to believe.
Want to believe. All right, and the winner is... Anecdote 2 was in fact the lie.
Yay!
Yay!
All right.
Yay!
Sure, you get a point. It's fine.
And now we have discovered the dark sense of humor that lies inside of Sarah.
Oh, you've only begun to discover it.
All right. So, Christy, do you want to go or do you want to be safe for last?
No, I'll go ahead and go.
Okay.
All right, so holiday story the first. I made my mom cry because she made a cake and my dog ate the entire thing. And I don't even know that was the part that upset her so much as the fact that I was really upset and nervous about the dog because he had just eaten an entire cake. And I was way more concerned about that than I was about, the work that had gone into it.
Was it chocolate?
It wasn't chocolate, but it was still a lot of sugar.
Okay, good.
It's still a lot of sugar. So that's number one. Number two, I went to a New Year's party with my girlfriend, and I really thought that we were just swinging by her parents' house for like a nice dinner, a quick dinner, and then we were going to go out. And I get there, and I realized that what I had thought was like a pretty casual dinner, like we had done something similar the night before with just like pizza and things. This casual dinner was actually 30 people. With like gold-plated china. It was 6 hours long, featured a 5-piece mariachi band, and was, by the way, all in Spanish, which I do not speak.
Okay.
Okay.
So that was a lovely holiday party. Or my third story, which is about, the candles that you sometimes at like a Christmas Eve service or whatever, everybody will kind of lean their candle and light the person next to them. And so we didn't do that at my church growing up. And so when I was like 8 or 9 and kind of was introduced to it for the very first time, everybody was like, yeah, he's 9 years old. He can work a candle. It'll be fine. But I had no candle operating experience. And my mother had a penchant for furs. Because she had spent a lot of time in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And I managed to not just singe, but like get like a proper smoky flame going
Like
on.
the full-on smell and everything.
Yeah, like the type of thing that you can't just like stub it out and pretend it didn't happen.
Okay, 2 of those is true and 1 is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say the gold-plated china is the fake.
It is hard to believe that, isn't it? The 6 hours in the mariachi band. It seems overblown.
Dinner party.
Seems overblown.
It does seem excessive, doesn't it?
Does. But I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna be wild and go with the fur coat burning.
Yeah, I made that part up. Yeah.
Damn. Wait, 6 hours?
Yeah, that was a real
China?
thing. And a mariachi band showed up.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was elaborate. It was like the most stressed out I'd ever been because I didn't understand anything anybody was talking about, but I'm having people ask me questions and it's being translated and yeah.
Okay.
All right.
My therapist didn't believe that story either, by the way.
All right. So for mine, I have anecdote 1 is grandma went to move an uncle's car to help another uncle get out and wrecked the car in a ditch. Not her car.
Nice.
Anecdote 2, there was the year that my aunt was making dinner and she not only forgot to turn on the oven, the mashed potatoes were so watery that they were like soup with no
I've
flavor.
had mashed potato soup.
With no flavor. Or anecdote 3. Well, all the uncles were just outside having a few beers, frying the turkey, until they got in over their heads and the turkey caught on fire.
I feel like I've heard that story on the news enough times that it could be true, but I'm calling that one out. It's the fried turkey disaster.
Ooh. I'm gonna go on a hunch and go with anecdote number 1 being the lie, actually.
All right, so secret answer is they're all true.
That's sad.
Cheat.
Oh, yikes.
Cheating.
I know. I'm sorry.
Fine.
Okay.
We do have a number of lines open, so we'd love to hear from y'all, hear your holiday disaster stories.
Oh, yeah.
Or just any type of normal secular sexuality advice you're looking for, or conversations you'd like to have.
It's episode 9. You know what we do. You know what we're here for. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. John, in Pennsylvania, you are on the air.
How's it going? My name's John. I just wanted your opinion on a situation that I was in earlier. So at my workplace, somebody came in and was just lying to everyone. They claimed to be, a woman, but it was clear that they were a man. They had blue hair and everything. So I just wanted your views on if you thought lying was a wrong thing to do.
Yeah, it's hard to call it a lie if it's not verifiably untrue. And somebody's gender is whatever the hell they say that it is.
Yeah.
As to the greater question, lies can be immoral, but not necessarily. I mean, Helen Keller, not Helen Keller. Anne Frank, if you were told the truth
The
about
ethical
where
lie.
Anne Frank was hidden, you'd be doing something terrible. So, yeah, it's not universal.
I'd also say, I see that he has hung up, but I would say that the gender of the person is whatever they say it is. And at the risk of offending some people, fuck you for not being able to get past your own shit for a few minutes and deal with it.
Happy Trans Awareness Week, everybody.
Yeah, welcome to YouTube.
So we have, let's see here. We have Nina. Is it Nina in Walnut Creek?
Hello?
Hello?
Howdy.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the way got my name incorrectly. It should be MINH.
Oh, sorry about
okay,
that.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Hello, Megan, Christy, and Serafina.
Hi.
Yeah. So today, I'm really happy that Serafina come back and Megan is on the show too, because there's something I would love to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we may be losing you.
But if you can get through, we definitely want to hear.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love
we
to
would
hear back.
Yeah, love to hear the question. I'm going to just actually place your call on hold and hope. Oh, here we go. Nin?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
There we go. Okay, so sorry, what was your question?
Yeah. So today, I would love to hear your opinion about what I see like the double standard when it comes to gender and sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is I would love to come back to something that I discussed with Christy and Serafina last time when I called it. When it's come to dating and ethnicity and race. Something that kind of strange to me that, for example, I am Asian. That's my race. And I am Vietnamese. That is my ethnicity, right? So if I said to you, I want to be with an Asian man because we look more similar. It's a bit easier for us in terms of cultural understanding. It's going to be better in the long run. People will say, well, good for you. That's admirable. And same thing, if I say to you, I want to date a Vietnamese guy because I think we had the same background, it's going to be, our future will be more stable. People will say that's wonderful. However, let's say if somebody have let's say you a Caucasian from come from a German background. Let's say, I want to be with a German guy because it's easier, for our future because we have similar background. People may say that's okay, but if you say I want to date another white man because it's easier, etc., and all of a sudden he's a racist. So I don't understand why we have that sort of double standard. So I hope you guys can. I would like to hear your opinion about that.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to unpack there. And one part of it is it's important to remember that you're not directly comparing apples and oranges as much as it might seem like it, because we're talking about, people dating within their race or within their race. But we're also talking about the difference between being Asian and being white, frankly. And in this country, there is a big difference simply in the sense that white folks are the dominant culture. And so there is a little bit of a distinction there as we, start to unpack all of this.
And I think it's important, Chris, you used the word culture, and I think it's important there to distinguish between the difference between the race and ethnicity and the culture of that specific person. I think the culture of that specific person plays a bigger role than the color of the skin or ancestry.
Yeah, so keeping all of that in mind, I think the very quick answer that we can then kind of build upon is that you're attracted to who you're attracted to. Whatever they look like, whatever gender they are, whatever sexual parts they have, whatever it is that attracts you to them, whether it's their fascination with anime, whether it's how well they smoke a brisket, whatever turns you on, and that's fine and great and wonderful. I do think that there is some pushback when folks fetishize people because of a specific race, and oftentimes it's because we tend to dehumanize people based on the way that they look, or we think that they're exotic, and we introduce all of these sort of assumptions and stereotypes. But at the end of the day, I do think it's reality and okay and natural that you're attracted to who you're attracted to.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you can be attracted to whoever you're attracted to, and a lot of times people are attracted to certain characteristics which may be associated with certain races. That's a normal thing. And you can have those attractions or those repulsions on the other end of things for good reasons or bad reasons or just neutral reasons. And it's hard for someone outside of that to know what those reasons are. I mean, speaking for myself, it's hard for me to know what my reasons are for attractions because they happen so far beneath my level of conscious thought. I'm not thinking, oh, should I be attracted to this person because of their large earlobes or perhaps because of their short hair?
The symmetry of their buttocks is appealing to me.
It happens before that. And there's this whole swimming full of ideas and stereotypes and history and culture that we're immersed in that is definitely affecting all of that. And some of that is bigotry, and some of that is racism, and because we grow up in cultures with that. So, I'm not going to, condemn anyone who says, oh, I want to be with someone who is this, out of hand. But I'm also not going to say, oh, well, this is just automatically fine, because, there's a lot of people who are having these preferences and stating these preferences for bigoted reasons. And a lot of times that's not even meaning that this person is a bigot or this person is a racist. It's just that's just part of the water we swim in.
Unfortunately, yeah. So
Okay, great.
does that help at all with kind of the questions you had?
It's not something there's a simple answer to.
No, it's really a very complicated and a lot of times situational. Yeah.
I do think it's very
Yeah,
situational and comes down
somewhat,
to just being kind to others. I'm sorry to step on what you were saying.
Oh, no, I just want to say, that's helped a little bit, and it's something that I would love to expand a bit more in other areas because Megan is here. I would love to hear your opinion about this, Megan. So that's something I would love. I would want to represent, and then I want to say, as from a woman perspective, how do you see this? So when I was in college a few years ago, I planned to study nursing, and I took a class with this woman. We really good classmates. We study partners. She's a Caucasian woman, and then she told me that, this is a good time for you to enter this program because you're a guy and you're Asian, so you have more chance to get into the program compared to me because I'm a woman and I'm Caucasian. So when it comes to counting the lottery into the healthcare, then you get more upper hand than I do. And to be honest with you, Megan, I'm not sure if I should feel honored or insulted by it. So the implication is that my academic is not good enough, to get in, but have to have some sort of mercy, from people who accept me simply because of my gender and my race. So I feel like it's not fair. And even though I am a minority, but I think when it comes to healthcare, compassion and the skill of the professional should be the main factor, not because the person is belong to a gender minority or racial minority. So I think that's not something I feel like really fair in our system.
Affirmative action is a really tricky subject. And Harvard University is facing a lawsuit right now over their admission standards and specifically dealing with Asian populations. And so these are very tricky subjects, and they may seem like a great idea on paper, but they get a little bit more tricky and difficult when you hear a story from an individual that feels like they may have been excluded or whatever.
Or the opposite of being included because of something. And that comes back to something that we like to call benevolent racism or benevolent sexism, where you gain an advantage based on a minority aspect of your being. I personally am not a fan of I'm white, so I can't really speak from any, race or ethnicity standpoint. But as a woman, I can say benevolent sexism really bothers me because that means I didn't earn it. That means you're holding the door for me, not because you want to be a good person, but because, I'm a helpless woman.
Dainty and fragile and need that extra help.
Right. And
really glad you didn't clock me just then because you are not dainty or fragile, and I don't want to be hit by you.
No, because I will do some damage. We don't want to mess up that pretty face. But I think it can go, of course, both ways. I would have to say that of course, racism, bigotry, sexism, all of that, in all the negative ways, is far and beyond horrible and terrible and should not happen. I think as we push toward attempting equality, I think we need to make sure we're not going in the opposite direction and saying, oh, because I want to be progressive, I'm going to actually put this person because of whatever aspect of their person ahead of the game. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I get your idea, Megan. And on when you speak about equality, there's something I would love to hear your opinion as well. I guess on the news you received on the news is I think a few years ago in Ohio, there was a student who wanted to open on his own fund a scholarship for white male or something like that. I think and then the school shut down the program and does not allow it now. From my perspective, I'm all about equality because I immigrated from a communist country. I understand how oppressive totalitarian was like. So, let's say if I have, an Asian, scholarship for all Asian students, I would be qualified, and you are not because you are not Asian, right? And let's say if I have, Chinese scholarship, I would not be qualified because I'm Vietnamese, I'm not Chinese. So I think it's just fair, and if the students say, I want this scholarship just for this group of people because they are Caucasian, they are men, and I think that's fair. It's not like the school have to, give them any fund for that. It's just the student will on itself. So I don't understand why we don't allow that option to open. If he's truly a racist, it will be exposed itself. We don't have to, shut it down just because we find it sort of inconvenient. So what do you think about that, Megan? And you too.
Yeah. So again, at the risk of offending some people, I think I would have to agree with you that if we're talking about playing, on an even playing field, and if the funds were not coming from any public place, and if they were just coming from a private source, then sure, the private source can go ahead and say, I'm going to give this this grant or this whatever for student aid to the best essay about holding forks and pitchforks and
whatever criteria comes to mind.
In the best Nazi rally, whatever.
Those things are allowed to exist, but I also think that if
you
my
don't have
university
to platform them.
Well, if my university said we don't want your Nazi award scholarship,
right,
and we have the right to shut that, we have,
If
I
it is
would actually be glad for that if they're willing to be discerning.
Yes, if the university does not want to platform or to, provide that through their university or college, that is fine. That does not, however, mean that this wonderful human being should not be allowed to provide this at a private level.
Yeah, but I do think that any business, a university in particular, can say no thank you to that money.
And of course we're seeing that.
And has a responsibility to do so in certain circumstances.
And we're seeing that with speakers now. With people being up in arms about universities not providing a platform for certain speakers. So the existence of it, I would agree, should be allowed. The manner in which it is publicized, that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, we have the right to free speech in this country, and that's an important right. But we also have the responsibility to be discerning and to reject bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sit down, kids. Auntie Sarah's about to learn you something. So the reason for these policies that you're talking about is that when we look at hiring practices and admissions practices and the way that we have systematically treated people for literally centuries and still are, we see pretty much undeniably that we have not been giving fair opportunities to people who are not fitting the right categories, white people, males, rich people, etc. So the farther you are away from a white male, cis, rich guy, the farther you are from advantages. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to do something about that, but we couldn't change people's minds. We couldn't go to each company and each school and each professor and each boss and make them understand hey, this needs to change. So what we did what we could do, which was make a systemic change to sort of force their hand and get more opportunities for the people who were already being unfairly treated. It's not perfect, and it's not going to be perfect. There's always going to be problems with it. There's always going to be someone who feels they were unfairly treated. It's going to mess up, but it's helping. It has helped. If you look at statistics, since we started things like affirmative action programs, things have been getting a little better for people of color, for women, for LGBT people who were public about it. We're seeing more of them now being able to have voices. We're seeing more of them getting educations. We're seeing more of them in better paying jobs. And we still have a long way to go on that. So I would not in any sense say that it's time to start saying, hey, well, let's just throw that stuff out and just
Let it stay.
let it slide. Let all the whites have it.
Yeah. Speaking as three white people sitting around a table. Yeah, I would agree with that. They should, whoever wants to do this should have the right to be able to do whatever they want with their money. But that does not mean that any university or any organization, period, should accept that money through that university. Now, whether that comes in, to the person and then cash to the school is a different story. But yeah.
Mm. Wonderful. Megan, can I ask you one more question? Is this okay with you?
Yeah, just I think one last question because we have a couple callers. Yeah.
Sure, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think maybe because the problem with our society that we create a double standard when it comes to men and women? For example, at my workplace, people know that I'm gay, so let's say if a female coworker joking something about me and I pat on her back, she laughs about it and we have a good time. However, if some straight guy come and he behaves exactly as I do, and I could tell that she's a bit okay, so don't touch me, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I see in this society, it seems like if a man hit a woman, then you are not kind. But if a woman hit a man, then a girl hits a guy, and we say, oh, she's just a girl. She would grow out of that. It's no big deal. So I feel like I feel like maybe our culture set up the social implication that because you're a woman, you would pass, some sort of privilege. and if you're a guy, you're supposed to behave a certain way. So therefore, it seems like people can get away with certain behavior and then would not get punished for that. But at the same time, we seem to have like 4 accusations against straight men just because they seem like they don't fit in. How do I say this? Like they don't because of the stereotype, so they seem like they had to suffer the consequences. I feel like it's not fair either. Does it make sense to you what I say?
Yeah, what you're saying does make sense.
Yeah.
So what I would like, that is a lot to unpack. So I think, yes, there is a double standard. I will tell you from personal experience that I have gay friends, I have straight friends, I have, trans friends, I have just friends and coworkers. And to be completely honest, I'm just as uncomfortable when my gay friends sneak up behind me and give me a hug as I am when my straight friends sneak up behind me and give me a hug. Personally, it does not matter. I think for some women, though, the perception is intent. And intent has a lot to do with it. Because with a gay man, you can be pretty sure that their intent is not to feel up a boob or, to grope your ass or whatever. But with a straight man, unfortunately, in our culture and in the world at large, we can't, as women, be so certain. Now, to address the point of false accusations, I think this comes down to women being more, I will not say they are not false accusations, women being more comfortable, feeling safer, making claims toward inappropriate behavior. And the men not realizing what they did was fucking inappropriate. Because like it or not, there is behavior that is inappropriate. Now, if you go up and pat someone on the back and they don't have a problem with it, but another person goes up and pats them on the back, maybe you might want to look at your behavior. It's kind of that benevolent sexism again, where you're getting a pass because you're gay, which is not necessarily a good thing.
Ideal, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the short way of looking at it is just to remember that it's a little juvenile to think that we should all be treated the same. We all believe in equality, but we also recognize that there's a certain level of discernment, a certain level of nuance that goes into that. And photocopying or photoshopping one person out of a situation and somebody else into that situation is not always the best way to evaluate the appropriateness of behavior. That doesn't mean that some people should get a pass and others shouldn't. It's to say that it's juvenile to think that everybody should be treated exactly the same because we simply don't live in a completely fair and equal society. And until that happens, there is going to be a little bit of thinking, a little bit of reading, a little bit of learning that goes into being able to process these types of interactions.
But just to wrap it up with a bow, I do want to say the idea of false accusations, I think, comes down to the difference in perception between the offender and the offendee.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for taking my call. I have a lot to speak with you because I would love to hear your perspective. I guess I'll
glad to hear. Let's keep the conversation going. Feel free to send us an email, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Thank you. See you.
Yeah, that was a lot to unpack. Yeah. But I think we did well enough. Sorry, I keep losing my new earbuds here. So we have actually a couple more callers if you guys are ready to hop in.
Yeah, and let's go through, I guess, rapid fire as we can.
Yes.
And see how many we can get to.
All right.
All right. So we have Janet in Tampa. Hey, Janet.
Hey, Megan. Hey, Christy. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
How's
Okay,
it going?
so I want to say real fast, fuck you, John in Pennsylvania. Fuck you hard. That was ridiculous and uncalled for. Okay, now we'll go on to my question.
Yes.
So how do you suggest for people who are, my daughters are very socially anxious, to handle the holidays in regards to people wanting to hug them? You know, I mean, they don't really, even family that they don't see often, they're very uncomfortable with that. They just don't like it, and it makes it so stressful for them to like be near anyone during the holidays because pretty much everybody wants or expects a hug.
Right. I think I speak from experience. Oh, yeah. I am just now working through my hugging issues. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm decidedly anti-hug with strangers.
Yeah.
And growing up in a Baptist church, that was tricky.
Yeah. So I would say, if at all possible, beforehand, those family members that, you know, they get to see a lot and, you know, they are comfortable hugging, maybe just have a conversation beforehand saying, hey, we're trying to set a precedent, so no hugging the girls, you know,
That's
at the
a great
party.
idea, Megan, because
ask,
that's
it's your
usually
body.
what happens is they'll see them hugging, you know, a cousin that they
No.
get along with and know very well, and then they think, you know, it's huggy time. I don't even get it because I don't like to touch people, but or you know, I don't like people in general usually, but yeah, but you're right. That's exactly what happens. They see them, you know, being friendly and warm with one person, and they expect it with everyone. And it doesn't help that, you know, the family is of the culture that's expected. You know, like in their culture, their father is from South America, and in their culture they greet everyone with a hug and a kiss on each cheek, and I mean that's just their culture, and they hate it. Like they try everything to get out of going to visit the family, and it's just because of that one instance. So I've kind of trained his sister to not expect it, but it's kind of hard with everyone else. But that's really good advice to tell the people who they are comfortable with to not do it as well. I like that. I appreciate that. And maybe that's just the way to go.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a situation where anybody expects, whether from an adult or from a child, any sort of physical contact that they're not eager to give. That being the case, in our culture and our society, there is going to be some level of expectation, right or wrong. And I think the best way to address that is to offer an alternative. And what I mean by that is one of my most delightful trends this year is all of the YouTube videos of the teachers doing like secret handshakes and stuff with kids as they walk in the door. Yeah, and I love so many of those videos that have been so trendy this year.
It's not. It's with my kids are. It's not that it's not the hug part that is the problem. It's that they don't want the attention, the like forced interaction, I guess, is more so like they're willing to say hi and stuff like that, but they don't want you to like they would do just as much anxiety about a fist bump as they would a hug.
Okay,
because it's the forced interaction that it gets them very anxious, and they just don't like it.
The concept
and it's, I mean, we've worked on it for years trying to get over it, and it's just how they are, and I've learned to accept it. I'm like total opposite. I will talk to anybody. I will fist bump anyone. I'll hug you if you want. I won't hug you if you don't want, but I'll hug you if you want. But my kids are not like that. So it's really difficult for me to know what the right answer is because it's so completely opposite of me. They also talk way less.
The concept of honoring a child's bodily autonomy, or just autonomy in general, is really new and strange in this culture. We've been not doing it for a long time, and a lot of people are still don't get it.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
you're exactly right. Like I taught them. I hate to say taught, but I don't know how else to explain it. I explained to his family that, for example, tickling them. If they try to tickle my kid and my kid says no, they have bodily autonomy and they can say no. They're allowed to say no. You're not allowed to do that to me. And that took, quite honestly, a lot of discussion for them to understand that if the kid says they don't want that, they don't have to do it. Same thing with hugging and kissing. But it's like for the holidays, for whatever reason, they think that everybody should be overly, like, affectionate. And it's just not in my kid's nature. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
So I really like the advice that I got, and I appreciate you guys so much. Great show. And, again, dude from Pennsylvania, you were rude. I love you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for giving us a call.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. I love Janet. So on to the next caller is going to be David in Michigan. David, you are on the air. David? What?
Going once, going twice. All right.
All right.
Hope to hear from you in the future.
Pop you back on hold there, and if you get maybe turn off your mute, we will attempt to pick you back up here in a sec. Next is John in California. John, you are on the air.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Howdy.
Hey.
Gamers, rise up!
All right. Fun chat today.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I didn't even understand the words there.
Yeah. Leroy Jenkins. I don't know. Whatever. We'll just assume it was something uplifting like that, right?
Leroy Jenkins.
Okay.
All right. So that's gonna do all of our callers because the other caller hung up. Yeah, that's okay. So what I want to do is I want to shout out to everyone who has been donating in the chat. Thank you so much. 100% of your donations now come to us directly. So
She doesn't mean
YouTube-
us. We don't.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're
to the ACA.
we're still pretty broke.
We are 100% volunteers.
Yeah.
And so YouTube doesn't take a cut anymore. In addition, let's see here. Patreon. We have a Patreon. If you like what you see or hear or both, please see us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/secular sexuality.
Like what you see.
That was more of a
Patreon-only content. You get to see a little more.
Actually, they have
Christmas
rules about
episode.
that.
Oh, that's right. I promised a Snoopy dance.
Oh yeah, this was owed.
Oh, sorry. I did
And
promise a Snoopy
why
dance.
are we doing this again?
Love
Okay,
Snoopy
so
dances.
we made it over 1,000 subscribers.
Woo!
And I'm doing a Snoopy dance. I
Oh, is that
honestly,
I have
this
never
is-
seen
I was thinking it was
Snoopy
more of
dance
an
that way.
Elmo thing.
Huh?
I've never seen
seen that?
Snoopy dance that way.
Really?
I've always seen him like do that.
Oh yeah, and he
That's
does
the-
the
He does the
like
piano.
flash dance, sort of like lean back thing.
Right?
Okay, I don't know if I could. No, that's okay. Well, you got me doing weird crap on camera, so
Good enough. make some gifts out of that.
yeah, turn it into something fun. Again, just a reminder: we have him at Meta speaking on the 24th. We need social media volunteers. You can be anywhere in the world so long as you have access to the internet and can probably see and hear us right now live. You can be a volunteer. Please email. I forgot to say at the beginning. Email social media at atheist-community.org. Also, for local volunteers, if you are local to Austin and you would like to come in and help out, you can send an email to Megan, MEGAN, at atheist-community.org. Friendsgiving, we are having Thanksgiving dinner here at the ACA next Thursday on Thanksgiving. We will be having, we will not be here live, but we will have a wonderful show lined up for you and set and ready to go. And lastly, I totally forgot what I was going to say, because that happens all the time.
Live television, people.
Yes, it is. So I think that is all of the items that I have. Anybody else have any items?
Yeah, only to say thank y'all again for joining us. And as Megan said, all of the donations, all of the chatter in the chat room, I mean, that's incredibly encouraging. So we're super happy to have y'all joining us. And yeah, we'd love to keep the conversation going. So Min, everybody else out there, sex@atheist-community.org. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your questions and yeah, hear what else is going on.
And who wants to take us out with? Do you want to take us out with the Dr. Daryl Ray's?
All right. Okay. See if I can remember this.
Okay.
Whether there's an elf on the shelf watching you.
Oh.
Whether you can smell burning turkey from the other room.
Yeah.
Whether you're
Funny
with family
story.
or friends.
Are you okay
You're
over
not
there?
making this easy for me. Well, everybody, now that we've had that, I hope you all have a great night. And to top it off, go out and maybe give yourself an orgasm, because orgasms are great. And you could even pass it on to somebody else.
The orgasm, not the STD.